Have you ever wondered why your Labradoodle suddenly steps in front of you, blocks the doorway, and stares like it knows something you don't? Most owners think it is stubbornness, dominance, or a bad habit. But the real reason can reveal an emotional truth hiding in plain sight. What looks like a dog controlling your path may actually be a silent test of attachment, anxiety, and how connected it feels to you. If your Labradoodle keeps blocking you before you leave, while you walk, or when you ignore it, this behavior may mean more. And the most shocking part is this: your dog may not be stopping your body. It may be desperately trying to stop distance. When your Labradoodle suddenly stands right across your path, it can feel strange, rude, and even controlling. But that visible moment usually means something deeper. Many owners notice it at doors, in hallways, beside the couch, or right before leaving home, and they assume the dog is testing limits. That interpretation sounds logical on the surface, because the dog is physically stopping movement, holding space, and forcing you to react before continuing. But in most Labradoodles, this behavior is not a power game at all. It is an emotional signal wrapped inside a body position. Your dog is often not saying, "I control this house," but something closer to, "Please notice me, include me, or tell me what happens next." Labradoodles are especially likely to do this because they are social, observant, and strongly connected to human routines, movement patterns, and emotional shifts. They do not just watch where you go, they watch how you move, when you change speed, what you carry, and whether you seem available. So when you stand up, head toward a doorway, or prepare to leave, your Labradoodle may feel a strong need to respond immediately. Sometimes the blocking happens because your dog wants attention and has learned that stepping into your path gets faster results than waiting quietly. A dog that feels ignored may discover that one sideways step makes you stop, look down, speak, or reach out with your hand. From the dog's perspective, that means the behavior worked. And anything that works repeatedly can become a habit without any stubborn intention. Other times, the blocking has more to do with uncertainty, especially when your movement suggests separation, change, or the possible end of togetherness. If your Labradoodle often blocks you near the front door, the timing itself gives an important clue about what the behavior means. That doorway may have become emotionally loaded because it predicts shoes, keys, bags, silence in the house, and time spent apart. In that moment, your dog may not be guarding the doorway. Your dog may be reacting to the feeling that connection is about to break. This is why the behavior can look calm outside, yet carry a very strong emotional charge underneath the surface you actually see. A Labradoodle can stand still in front of you while internally feeling restless, clingy, worried, or deeply focused on keeping contact a little longer. Some dogs block because they want to join you, but some are also checking whether they still matter in that moment. That is the part that many owners find surprising, because the dog is not only following movement, and it may be testing emotional connection. If you step around the dog without engagement, the dog may repeat the behavior more strongly next time, hoping for clearer reassurance. If you speak, touch, pause, or change direction every time, the dog learns that blocking is an effective way to open communication. What looks like one small household annoyance can actually become a repeated emotional conversation between you and your Labradoodle over many weeks. This pattern becomes even stronger in dogs that receive inconsistent attention, because unpredictability makes attention-seeking behaviors more persistent and emotionally charged over time. A Labradoodle that never knows when connection will happen may create connection physically by placing its body right where your movement matters. Breed tendencies also play a role here, because Labradoodles are often highly people-oriented, mentally active, and sensitive to subtle household changes. That sensitivity is wonderful when it creates cooperation, but it also means they notice your routines and react quickly when routines carry emotional weight. A dog like this may read your standing up as information, not just motion, and then answer with a behavior. The blocking can therefore be part curiosity, part anticipation, part attachment, and sometimes part anxiety, depending on the exact situation. This is why context matters more than the body position alone, because the same posture can mean slightly different things in different moments. If the dog blocks you near food, excitement and expectation may be driving the behavior more than emotional dependence or separation discomfort. If the dog blocks you when you move room to room, the issue may be over-involvement and constant monitoring rather than true distress. If the dog blocks mainly before departures, then mild separation-related worry becomes a much more likely emotional explanation for the pattern. You should also notice whether the behavior happens after long boredom, skipped walks, or days with too little direct interaction. A dog with extra energy and unmet social needs will often create interruptions simply because interaction feels more rewarding than standing aside quietly. For that reason, blocking is sometimes less about fear and more about a desperate attempt to create engagement in a dull routine. The body becomes the message when the dog has not learned a calmer, clearer, more acceptable way to ask for connection. This is why punishment usually makes the problem worse, even if the dog moves aside in that single moment. Harsh correction can remove the visible behavior briefly, but it does not remove the emotional need that created the blocking in the first place. In some dogs, punishment even adds confusion, because now the owner feels unpredictable during an already emotionally sensitive moment. Your Labradoodle may then stop trusting the interaction, while still feeling the same attachment, uncertainty, or urge to keep contact. That combination can lead to more stress signals, more shadowing, and sometimes even stronger blocking later in a different form. The better approach begins with changing the way you interpret the behavior before you try to change the behavior itself. When you stop seeing defiance everywhere, you start noticing patterns, triggers, timing, and emotional clues that point toward the real cause. Ask yourself what was happening just before the block, because the seconds before the behavior usually explain more than the block itself. Were you putting on shoes, carrying food, ending play, picking up your bag, or moving after a long period of ignoring the dog? Was your dog under-exercised that day, unusually clingy, or already watching you closely before stepping into your path? Those small details reveal whether the dog needs more structure, more reassurance, more activity, or simply a better learned alternative behavior. If attention is the main driver, then the solution is not emotional coldness, but predictable connection given before the dog has to demand it. Regular walks, short play sessions, training games, and calm check-ins teach the dog that access to you does not depend on blocking. Predictable interaction lowers the pressure because your Labradoodle stops feeling like every moment of contact must be urgently created or protected. If departure stress is the issue, then your dog needs practice with brief movement and short absences that stay emotionally manageable. You can stand up, walk a few steps, return, and reward calm behavior before the dog ever reaches a panicked or blocking response. That teaches your Labradoodle that your movement does not always mean loss, and that calm waiting can still keep connection secure. Very short repetitions are important here, because emotional learning happens best before the dog becomes too tense to think clearly. You are not trying to prove authority. You are teaching safety, predictability, and a new emotional expectation around your movement. Simple cue training also helps a lot, especially cues like move aside, back up, or go to your spot. These cues work best when taught gently, outside stressful moments. With food rewards and clear repetition rather than frustration. Once the cue becomes familiar, your dog has a specific job to do instead of improvising with its body. That matters because many blocking dogs are not being difficult. They are using the only strategy they know reliably changes the moment. A trained alternative gives the dog another route to success, and that reduces both tension and repeated household interruption. For example, if your dog hears place and moves to a mat, you can reward that calm choice immediately. Now the dog learns that stepping out of the path, not into it, is what actually brings attention and good outcomes. This is called replacement. And for a Labradoodle, it is usually far more effective than intimidation or repeated verbal scolding. Sensitive dogs respond especially well when guidance feels clear, fair, and emotionally safe instead of sharp, overwhelming, or inconsistent. Your tone matters too, because tense human voices can raise the dog's arousal and make the moment feel more urgent. A soft, steady tone communicates direction without conflict, which helps the dog stay calm enough to make a better choice. Environment management can also reduce rehearsal, especially while you are still teaching the new pattern. Using a mat near common pathways, slowing busy transitions, and giving the dog a predictable waiting spot can make success easier. The less often your dog practices blocking, the faster the old habit loses strength and the new habit becomes familiar. You should also watch your own accidental rewards, because even irritation can function like attention to an attention-seeking dog. If every block leads to eye contact, talking, touching, or a dramatic pause, the behavior may stay surprisingly persistent. That is why calm consistency matters more than intensity. Because dogs learn from repeated consequences, not from human frustration alone. Many owners improve this issue only after realizing the dog is not challenging rank, but trying to manage emotional distance. That shift in understanding changes everything, because now the training plan actually matches the emotional truth behind the behavior. Instead of fighting the dog, you begin supporting regulation, teaching alternatives, as in making everyday transitions feel less uncertain. In many homes, that alone reduces the blocking significantly within a short time, because the dog no longer needs the same strategy. Still, improvement depends on honesty about the pattern, especially if the behavior appears every morning before work or every evening at departures. Repeated timing around separation can point to mild dependence that deserves patient training rather than dismissal as a quirky breed habit. It does not always mean severe separation anxiety, but it can signal the early emotional roots of that problem. Catching it early is valuable because small, clingy rituals can slowly harden into stronger distress if they are constantly reinforced. You may also notice that the blocking gets worse when life becomes busier, noisier, or emotionally inconsistent inside the home. Dogs that feel less secure often seek more control over closeness, and blocking is one simple way to influence closeness. That does not mean the dog wants leadership over you. It means the dog wants reassurance about access, contact, and predictability. Seen that way, the behavior becomes much easier to understand and much easier to solve with compassion and structure. Your Labradoodle is not plotting dominance at the hallway entrance. It is responding to what that moment emotionally represents. Sometimes that moment represents possible fun, sometimes possible food, and sometimes the uncomfortable possibility that you're about to disappear. The body block is simply the outer layer, while the real story lives underneath in anticipation, attachment, and learned expectation. That is also why two Labradoodles can show the same blocking behavior for slightly different emotional reasons in different homes. One may be bored and connection-hungry, while another may be mildly anxious and desperate to prevent another moment of separation. So the smartest solution is never a generic correction, but a response shaped around the actual trigger you keep observing. When owners slow down and read the full context, the dog suddenly makes far more sense than before. You begin to see not a stubborn obstacle, but a sensitive animal trying to communicate with the tools it has. And once your Labradoodle feels understood, mentally engaged, physically satisfied, and guided by clear routines, it usually stops needing to block your path.